Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Church Unitarian in Littleton, Massachusetts. I am so glad you've decided to join us this morning, whether in person or online. My name is Locascio. I'm a member here at First Church Unitarian. I'm also serving on the executive team and on the standing committee. You can find some of us, if you want to say an extra hello at coffee hour, by our tags here. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here with some announcements this morning. First, before we forget, just please silence your phones, your watches, put them in worship mode. Giggles and coughs and squeals of delight are welcome, but the phone ringing is not so much. Reverend Laura's off today, and I just wanted to mention our lay pastoral minister is Jan Dustin. Community Matters is an insert available online as well, and I just wanted to bring your attention to 3 quick items. First is this coming Friday, all the snow should be cleared. You should have plenty of time to come to the Friday Food, Fun, and Fellowship from 6 to 8 p.m. here at church. It's a potluck, totally casual, no agenda. Have fun. And there's going to be some extra singing facilitated. Yeah, you bring food. That's what potluck. Please sign up for a listening session. As you may know, the initial report back on the survey for modifications to this beautiful sanctuary came out. I hope you've had a chance to read it and digest it. There's a lot of information in there. There are 4 listening sessions, and you can sign up for one. We really want to hear back from you. I'm involved with that. What did you think of the report? Did we miss anything? What do you think? So that information is here and was also in an email. And then the last thing is just to remind you that we're in the stewardship period. There's some fun things, so keep tuned to what's going on, your emails, surprises might be happening, and so on. If you're new here, and a special welcome to you, you can let the collection plate pass you by. We also have these pew cards. They might be in pink or purple. Put them in the collection basket if you want to sign up for being contacted or receiving the newsletter. You can do that online as well. I invite you to fellowship hour in the vestry. It's through this door and down the stairs. Just follow the smell of coffee. And just be careful going down the stairs with everybody navigating that. I probably forgot something, but the biggest thing I don't want to forget is introducing our former interim minister and our guest minister today, Reverend Steve Edington, who will be joining us. He's a 30-year resident of Nashua, New Hampshire. Did you know that? He served as the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church there for 24 years. And he was named their church's minister emeritus in 2019. And he had previous ministries in Rockland, Maine, Stony Brook on Long Island, which is right near where I'm from. And he has served as interim minister in many churches, but here for 3 years. We got him for 3 years. And he continues to live in Nashua with his wife. They have a son, a daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren who live in Kennebunk, Maine. So he is a local. I'm sure you'll give him a nice warm welcome with your attention and at coffee hour. So welcome to church.
Thanks, Molly. Good to see you today. Good to see all of you. Great to be with you coming down here today. I'll see how well I do with names and what I remember and what I don't. But it is really it's wonderful to be here with you today. And when we get into the service, I'll share some of my things with you about the book I managed to get out here recently. Our opening words are by the Reverend Bruce Southworth. Into this house of light and hope we gather. We gather to stretch our minds, to deepen our spirits, to share our smiles, and to give and receive comfort and hope. In such hours may the burdens be eased, the soul refreshed, and praise be given for the blessings that are ours. And Bella is going to light our chalices. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you very much. Nice job. Let's sing together, Wake Now, My Senses.
Good morning. I'm Karen Tucker Barisano, and I'm a member of the Stewardship team, along with Deborah Niles, Lori Grant, and Cindy Hyland. Just one note, we want to thank Lori for this great stewardship idea this morning. Unfortunately, she needs to miss the service as she is mourning the death of her aunt at a service today. So we're so excited to share today's stewardship moment. We're popping with excitement. If you look around, you will see other members of our stewardship team and our worship associate Jim, who will pop up and help us as needed. We'd like to pop over some questions that you will get so that you can think a little bit about this. Hopefully you got one when you came in the sanctuary. If you didn't, put your hand up and we'll get you one. I see Bill and Mike over there. So, I'm sorry, I lost my place. What we want you to think about, what keeps you coming, not only to Sunday worship services, but offering your time, treasures, and service. You should have received this slip of paper. I'm going to move pretty quickly through this because I'm supposed to keep this to 4 minutes. And we'll group the questions, and what will happen is if a question resonates with you, pop up, and we'll bring the mic to you. And we will move on to the second set of questions if there are no pop-ups. The answers are designed to be a couple of words or a sentence. That will allow us to pop along. Don't be bashful because all thoughts and comments are welcome. So here's one from Lori Grant, just to give you an idea. She said, I'm here because you let me be me and do silly things like this pop-up. And I have one, which is, I love FCU as a place where my grandchildren can experience a loving community. So, first 2 questions. What gets you out of the house on a 10-degree day to come to FCU? Or, more directly, why did you choose to be here at FCU? We might have a prize for those who pop up, but make sure that you keep the bags closed until you leave the sanctuary. Pop up.
Because Thea is here and
Because Thea is here.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Cindy, she gets a prize. She gets a prize, Cindy.
I'm here because Sunday morning keeps me grounded for the rest of the week.
I'm here because I joined FCU because I wanted to be with a group of like-minded people.
Nice.
I'm here because I love the people that I meet here.
I'm here. Pam Ross made me do it. Because when we came, we heard that gay people were going to be allowed to be married. And we were like, whoa, we came to the totally right place. And I do call us the barrel of misfit toys, and I fit right in, and I'm grateful.
Hi, I'm Michael Beston. I chose FCU because I didn't want to go to hell or listen to nonsense before I got there.
I came this morning because my mom made me, but I wanted to sleep.
I'm Peggy Britton. I came so that my family could worship together in one place, and I keep coming because I sing in the choir.
One more, and we'll move on. Oh, Molly, I'm sorry.
Lynn Courtney, and I get here quite literally in person because I sing in the choir and I love it. And it was the choir early on that brought me to the church too. But now it's so much for the community, and for that few moments of kind of rejuvenation and calm that Linda mentioned that keeps me here.
Molly?
Yeah, I was going to say, I come here because you pay me to be here. But I keep coming back, and I bring my kid because it's an amazing community. And it's really important for her to see, you know, I don't know, to make connections with people she doesn't usually have in her life, and to have that support, extra support outside of just her and me. And there are so many fun activities and great people here that we can be involved in, and I feel so supported like all the time. So.
Okay, I'm going to pop along. Next set of questions. Why did you say yes to being either a worship associate, joining the Women's Alliance, helping out with Sunday morning hospitality, or the fall fair? And then a second might be, what's your favorite memory of FCU activities over the last year? Pop up.
Well, I have to say one of the favorites is the church camping trip, which is always the weekend before Labor Day weekend. And the other thing, of course, is the coffee house, and just being here with this community and with the wonderful music we get to sing to.
I popped up in the choir loft. And I said yes to all the committees and currently standing committee because I grew up in a church where they told us what to do, who was going to lead us, and told me how to think. And we here get to do it ourselves, and that's awesome.
Hi, Liz Cooper. I said yes to the Women's Alliance in part because my mother was in the Alliance, but that's not the reason I joined. The reason I joined is because when she was in the nursing home and friends dropped away saying, that's not Helen, the Women's Alliance knew it sure was Helen, and they kept visiting. And I still find that wonderful, caring community within the Women's Alliance, and you get to serve the community. What could be better?
Well, thank you for your pop-ups today. We will continue. Oh, Susan. She's popping.
So I do the fair out of habit, because I get to do it with Karen now, and because everybody comes out for the day, and it's a great day.
My memory is just the warmth, compassion, and humor that Reverend Laura brings to us every Sunday that she's in the pulpit, and other times too. But I gotta say, having that clownfish come through that door last Sunday, right? Highlight. That was just fabulous. Thank you, Stewardship team.
My memory is when I help out at the church fair. And I really like helping out at the church fair. So.
Well, thank you for popping up. Our gift, if you haven't figured it out, is popcorn. So we will continue popping up at the coffee hour.
And I'm going to say one more thing, and that is that there'll be more popcorn at coffee hour, and I come for the hugs.
think. Does that work? So I just want to say, like Molly, I'm paid to be here, but this community is such a wonderful, warm, welcoming community, and the children here are absolutely fantastic, and they keep me coming, even when I'm supposed to take a day off. So that shows you how excited I am to be here. This morning's story is What the Road Said by Cleo Wade, and it's definitely a book for everybody. Have you ever wanted to go in a different direction? Have you ever wondered if there was something more, something out there, something just different? I did too. Then one day, I was walking my usual way home when out of nowhere, for no reason at all, almost as if it was magic, a road appeared. I could not believe my eyes, so I walked over to it. I said to the road, "Where do you lead?" The road said, "Be a leader and find out." "How do I start?" I asked. The road smiled and said, "You've already started." "Well, what happens when I get there?" "We have just begun," said the road. "Do not skip straight to the ending. Enjoy the beginning and the middle, too." "Which way do I go?" "That is your choice to make," said the road. "But what if I go the wrong way?" The road curved a little, almost as if giving me a hug, and said, "Do not worry. Sometimes we go the wrong way on our way to the right way." "What if I get scared?" "That's okay. You're brave," said the road. "What does it mean to be brave?" I asked. The road guided me through a very gloomy forest. Even though I was frightened, I trusted the road. And as I took one step and then another step after that, the road gently whispered, "Being brave is when you are afraid of doing something, but you do it anyway. Do not let what scares you keep you from continuing on your path." "Will I always move forward?" "Not always," said the road. "Why not?" "Because sometimes you will stumble backward, and sometimes you will stand still." "What if I fall?" "Everyone falls at some point," said the road. But I will always be there when you land." "What if I get lost?" "There may be some days that feel long and dark," said the road, "but I promise that no matter what, I will give you the evening stars and the morning sun to light your way." "What if I grow weary or get hurt?" "I will give you trees of all shapes and sizes to shelter you when you need to rest and heal," said the road. "What if I get lonely?" "You are never alone," said the road. "What if I change?" "Come with me," said the road. And as I moved forward, the road introduced me to a caterpillar and a family of seeds. We didn't stay long. The road began taking me on a journey through seasons. I watched summer turn to fall, fall turn to winter, and as spring was upon us, I realized we'd gone in one big, beautiful circle. I looked down, and I found I was standing in front of a caterpillar and the seeds once more. Only the caterpillar was no longer a caterpillar, and the seeds had turned to flowers of every color, swaying in the sun. The road then raised up and said, "All things grow and change. That is the magic of being alive. You too will find your wings. You too will bloom. No living thing is meant to stay the same." What if I need help on my journey? Ask your fellow travelers along the way. What if they're mean to me? Lead them with kindness, said the road. How? By being kind. What if they want to fight? Lead them in peace, said the road. But how do I lead them in peace? By listening to their stories, telling them yours, and reminding them that you are all on this journey together. What if the world around us is filled with hate? Lead it to love. How? By sharing the power of your love with it, said the road. What if something unexpected happens? Keep going. What if there are mountains that feel too tall to climb? What if there are rivers that feel too wide to cross? What if I get my heart broken? What if I feel stuck? What if giving up is easier? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, said the road. What if I can't do it? You can, said the road. How do you know? Because you have come this far, said the road. I said to the road, where do you lead? The road said, be a leader and find out.
Good morning. I'm Jim Barisano. This is a time in our service, an opportunity for generosity. And I'd like to quote Booker T. Washington, an American educator and author. If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. And now the offertory will be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join me in the community response. May we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
Good morning again. In addition to the candles of caring of silence, you're invited to, at this point, if you wish to offer a spoken. Jim will provide the microphone for you. He will light the candle, and they can briefly speak the reason for your candle of concern. I was asked to say briefly, so I did. Right. You're invited at this time. Okay. Words for our pastoral prayer by the Reverend Lisa Friedman. Spirit of life and love, we live in a fragmented world that tempts us to despair. We would put it back together piece by piece if it were ours to choose. But sometimes the fragments are enough. In a world of cruelty, there is still power in every act of kindness. In a time of doubt, there is still power in every act of hope. In an age of division, there is still power in every act of unity. May we remember that sometimes the fragments of meaning we make are just the right size to hold in our hands. May we be together in silence. Now may we move from this shared silence, join our voices in singing Spirit of Life. During my time with you, I'm sure I mentioned I was an English major as an undergraduate. One of my English professors, Mr. Eric Thorne, was a very big devotee of James Joyce. In one class session, he declared that the concluding paragraph to Joyce's short story, The Dead, constituted, in his words, the greatest piece of writing in the English language. In fact, he was reading that paragraph, and then he stopped and he yelled that so loud you could have heard him halfway down the hall. Well, I was 20 years old then. Came away from that class session wondering what it would be like to find an author that could generate that much passion in a person. And a few years later, I discovered Jack Kerouac while in seminary, late 1960s, when I read The Dharma Bums. It's the book he published in the wake of the popularity of On the Road. I read it from the angle of Kerouac, trying to reconcile the Catholicism in which he was raised just down the road from here in Lowell with the Buddhism to which he became strongly attracted in the mid-1950s. It was the style of his writing that captured me as much as the book's content. It seemed like he and I were having a conversation to the point when the book ended, I wanted to keep the conversation going. Well, I went then back and read all of his works that were available at the time. I found myself especially attracted to the 5 Lowell novels he wrote, based on his growing up in Lowell in the 1920s and 30s in its French-Canadian Catholic neighborhoods. And I'll say here I realize that not everybody resonates with Kerouac. He makes it for some people he doesn't. Kind of same with me and James Joyce. I could never get into Ulysses at all, even though Mr. Thorne thought it was wonderful. Anyway, 1988, I became the minister, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashua. Found my way I was a little less than half an hour away from all those neighborhoods that Kerouac wrote about. And then I found out that there was this organization called Lowell Celebrates Kerouac that produces an annual Kerouac festival there every fall. And so I joined up. And as the saying goes, one thing led to another. I eventually became president of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, putting on literary festivals down there, and taught a continuing studies course on beat literature at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, and wrote 3 books about Jack Kerouac. Got my latest one out somewhere down here. There we go. I got my latest one out this past fall. Here we go. Titled, The Gospel According to Jack, Tracking Kerouac in My Life. Just happened to bring a few copies with me this morning. And the book is really, it's my attempt to sort of bring together my minister life on the one hand, my Kerouac life on the other. So what I did was take passages from his writing and use them as a basis for a homily or a sermon. So what you got, I got 10 chapters in here, 10 Kerouac-based sermons. Chapter I'm going to use today is the one about Kerouac's longtime friendship with Neal Cassady of Denver and San Francisco. Neal is the basis for the character of Dean Moriarty in On the Road, and he's Cody Pomeroy in some of Jack's other novels. And in my Neal Cassady chapter, I write, one component of the Kerouac-Cassady relationship is that Neal revealed to Jack both the exuberant and the liberating side of the road. Revealed to Jack both the exuberant and liberating side of the road, as well as the road's despairing and shadow side. This gets me to my sermon title, Kerouac's Roads and Ours. I'll toss in here, On the Road is really not even my favorite Kerouac novel. One of his Lowell-based novels about the loss of his brother when Jack was 4 and his brother was 9, called Visions of Gerard, that gets my vote for his best novel, and I got 2 chapters to draw on that one, but today it's On the Road. I'd love to have a conversation with Professor Thorne, where he's still alive, as to which concluding paragraph, Joyce's in The Dead or Kerouac's in On the Road, is in fact the greatest piece of writing in the English language. On that note, here's how On the Road ends. Dean, ragged in a moth-eaten overcoat he'd bought specifically for the freezing temperatures of the East, walked off alone. And the last I saw of him, he rounded the corner on 7th Avenue, eyes on the street ahead, and bent to it again. Old Dean's gone, I thought. So in America, when the sun goes down and I sit on the old broken-down river pier watching long, long skies over New Jersey and sense all that raw land that rolls in one unbelievable huge bulge over to the West Coast, and all that road going, all the people dreaming in the immensity of it. And in Iowa by now, I know the children must be crying in the land where they let the children cry. And tonight the stars will be out. Don't you know that God is Pooh Bear? The evening star must be drooping and shedding her sparkler dims on the prairie, which is just before the coming of the complete night that blesses the earth, darkens all the rivers, cups the peaks, and folds the final shore in. And nobody knows what's going to happen to anybody, but the forlorn rags of growing old. I think of Dean Moriarty. Well, this is Kerouac's ode, if you will, to the America of the late 1940s that he'd been traveling around for the 2 or 3 years prior to his writing the book. And he concludes it, as you just heard, by writing about the evening star shedding her sparkler dims on the prairie and blessing the rivers, cupping the peaks, folding the final shore in. But then he gets to the end with this line. And nobody knows what's going to happen to anybody, but the forlorn rags have grown old. It's a little jarring. You know, one moment we're sailing along over prairies and rivers and mountain peaks and shores, only to get smacked upside the head by the forlorn rags of growing old. Well, throughout the novel, we see Dean Moriarty, the crazed companion of the protagonist, Sal Paradise. And Dean is this wild, exasperating, at times greatly irresponsible, free spirit. But he's also the one who opens up the shy and introspective Sal Paradise, who's Kerouac's character in the novel. Opens up Sal Paradise, or Jack Kerouac, to what Sal calls joy, kicks, and darkness. But the last we see of Dean, as we just saw, he's alone on a New York City street corner wearing a moth-eaten overcoat, while Sal, or Jack, and the new woman in his life, along with another couple, ride off in a limo to a Duke Ellington concert. The real life setting here is that Neal Cassady had come from San Francisco to New York seeking some more road adventures. Only Jack is now married and looking to move in to another phase of his life. Well, the marriage turned out to be short-lived, but the road, at least for the time being, was over. The forlorn rags of growing old. Dean alone in a moth-eaten overcoat. This is where Kerouac's road novel ends. It baffles me as to how the critics of this book, who ridiculed and dismissed it as a little more than a tribute to mindless hedonism, couldn't really see where Jack was going with it. He was trying to show both the overlay and the underlay of the road, its exuberant side and its shadow side. And by extension, the exuberant side and the shadow side of our life journeys. Kerouac's road and ours. The joy is that of joy. The overlay is that of joy, promise, believing that what you are searching for is somewhere out there just waiting to be tracked down. In an early passage in the book, Kerouac's Sow Paradise says, "Somewhere along the way, I knew I would find the pearl. Such is the lure of the road." Some years ago, I chaired a panel discussion at an exhibition of the original manuscript of On the Road, which Kerouac typed out on a 120-foot long roll of taped together paper. And it was there, this big display case, and I asked one of the panelists how he accounted for the growing popularity of this novel and why in this place where we were gathered, where this exhibition was, why there were people there in their late teens and early 20s up through people in their 70s. His response was, because people keep having babies. His point was that On the Road is a classic coming-of-age novel. Don't most of us, some of us anyway, feel usually in our late teens, early 20s, there's a road out there and a pearl that awaits our discovery? This is the sentiment that On the Road taps into. Now, most young readers probably will not go out and actually do a lot of the wild and crazy things that Sal and Dean get themselves into, but that's not the point. On the Road is about something that calls us, usually at an earlier point in our life, to whatever we sense is beyond the lives that we've lived up to that time. We may not know exactly what or where the pearl is, but we still want to find it. But that's not all there is to the road. I really appreciated the story that was read there earlier. It kind of jives with what I'm saying here. That's not all there is to the road. There's an underlay of tragedy and loss, of the road slipping by with the specter of nothing at the end. Dean, ragged in a moth-eaten overcoat, the forlorn rags of growing old. And the genius of Kerouac is that he saw both sides of the road, even at the age of 29 when he wrote the book. And the tragic irony of his life is that he himself succumbed to the road's shadow side once the demons of success and celebrity finally came his way and drove him even deeper into the alcoholism that had long plagued him and that eventually took his life. One more note on this. I have found that reading On the Road at different times in one's life can be kind of an interesting exercise. You read that thing in your 20s, and you read it in your 20s, and that is to key into the energy and the wildness and the craziness in the hope and the promise of finding your pearl, and you just want to get out there and get it. But for me anyway, I found out that going back to the novel at subsequent stages in one's life is to discover its more sobering side. Is to discover that the road isn't all joys and kicks. Tragedy and loss are also a part of the road, or the life journey. As Kerouac's Sow Paradise, by way of Cassady's Dean Moriarty, comes to learn. Well, this is some of what I write about then in that Neal Cassady chapter. Like I said, I brought some books along. If you'd like to read some other chapters, you can pick up the book during coffee hour. Be down there at a table with it. But I'm going to go one more around with it now by reading how I wrap it up in an epilogue. And in this one, too, I use a passage from the end of On the Road. This is the epilogue. And it comes right near the end of On the Road. In the fall, I myself started back home from Mexico City, and one night just over the Laredo border in Dilley, Texas, I was standing on the hot road underneath an arc lamp with the summer moths smashing into it when I heard the sounds of footsteps from the darkness. And behold, and lo, a tall old man with flowing white hair came clomping by with a pack on his back, and when he saw me, he passed and said, "Go moan for man," and clomped on back to his dark. Did this mean I should go on my pilgrimage on foot on the dark roads across America? Well, several years ago, I was attending a conference in New Braunfels, Texas. It's about halfway between San Antonio and Austin. Had some downtime at the conference one afternoon and had a rental car at my disposal, so I decided I was going to drive down and check out Dilley. Now, Dilley is a population of approximately 3,600. Standard issue straight out of central casting little Texas town. Road track, water tower, main drag, a few bored-looking teenagers hanging out. And even in April, it was Texas hot. So I wandered around Dilley, see if I could figure out where Jack had his go moan for man moment. Didn't have much luck there. And then, taking refuge from the sun, I sat on a park bench under a shade tree, took out my copy of On the Road. Now, I'm in a Jack Kerouac Facebook, and I wanted to get a picture of myself on that bench with the book, which I could then post up to show the other readers where I'd been. Now, this happened to be before pictures could be taken with iPhones. So a woman walked by, and I asked her if she'd take a picture of me on the bench reading the book. She agreed. I told her that the book mentioned this very town of Dilley. She seemed incredulous that Dilley, Texas could ever be in a book. So I showed her the passage. She'd never heard of Kerouac, but still was impressed that this writer, whoever he was, had given her hometown a shout-out. I thanked her for taking the pictures, and she walked over to where her pickup truck, of course, was parked about a half block away. Just before she got in, she yelled over to me and asked, "What was the name of that book again?" I shouted back, "It's called On the Road. Give it a read if you get a chance." She waved and drove off. I left town shortly thereafter. There's one other place where Jack recounts this go moan for man encounter. It's in his book, Visions of Cody. That's the book where he calls Neil Cody Pomeroy. This time it takes place at the junction of the state line of Colorado and the state line of poor Utah. And instead of an old man giving Jack this admonition, this time he says it's God, with forefinger pointed straight at me, commanding Jack, "Go thou across the ground, go moan for man." When Kerouac appeared on the Steve Allen Show, kind of in the wake of the popularity that On the Road was generating, he was on the Steve Allen Show, and he read this passage, this Visions of Cody passage, as a lead-in to those last few lines of On the Road that I read a few minutes ago. To these passages, add in a line from Kerouac, Kerouac's introduction to Lonesome Traveler. "Always considered writing my duty on earth." Something very Catholic about that phrase. Early on in his Catholic education, Jack was taught that God puts each of us on earth for a purpose, which is our duty to fulfill. And that is what drove him. For Kerouac, writing was not something he dabbled in or even tried to make a living by. No, writing was his inescapable duty, and he had his marching orders from God, no less, to go moan for man. His travels were not just so much aimless wandering around, as some of his critics maintained, but for him it was a pilgrimage that took him across the dark roads of America. His life was an often tortured one. There were 2 failed marriages, a daughter he barely acknowledged, and of course his alcoholism. There were 7 lean and hungry years between the publication of his first novel, The Town and the City, in 1950, and On the Road in 1957, and during that time he despaired if he he would ever fulfill what he thought was his duty on earth. But it was during that time that he wrote much of what would eventually become his overall literary output. And then literary fame finally did come. And it's extracted its own price from Kerouac in ways that cost him dearly. In a recently released and very excellent Kerouac documentary titled Kerouac's Road, The Beat of a Nation, one of the people interviewed is the composer, author, and jazz man David Amram. David was a friend of Jack's from the mid-1950s on, and pleased to say he's a good friend of mine as well. David continues to perform at our annual Kerouac festivals in Lowell every October, closing in on his 95th birthday. And in this film, David recounts a phone conversation he had with Jack shortly before his death about the glowing review Gilbert Milstein gave on the road in the New York Times on the day of the book's release in September of 1957. According to David, Jack said the Milstein review, "It made my literary career and ruined my life." Yeah, ruined my life may be a bit of a stretch, but I understand what Jack was saying to David. For On the Road gave Jack the literary and cultural recognition he sought, but left him with a life that he had great difficulty managing to the point of losing it. He simply wanted to be recognized and respected as an American author. Instead, he got pigeonholed as a beatnik, a word for which he actually had very little use. Well, be all that as it may, it was on the Steve Allen Show that Kerouac offered an interesting segue as he moved from reading the Go Moan for Man piece and Visions of Cody to that concluding paragraph of On the Road. Steve Allen kind of noodling on the piano there all the time, and as he shifted from one work to the other, he said, "Anyway, I wrote the book because we're all going to die." I hear and I read that line, and I read it and look at it through my religious lens. For along with some of the definitions I offer in some of the earlier chapters, I add this one. One of my colleagues in the Unitarian Universalist ministry, the late Reverend Forrest Church, says that religion is our human response to the dual reality of being alive and knowing that we will die. Religion, according to Dr. Church, that is to say, is how we find spiritual depth and meaning and a calling and a reason in our lives, knowing we don't have those lives forever. And I wonder if Jack had something like that in mind when he wrote not only On the Road, but all of his voluminous works. He was seeking to fulfill what he called his duty on earth in the face of his mortality. I wrote the book because we're all going to die. So in the end, Kerouac's writings constituted his performing a religious act. Religious in the sense that Reverend Church has defined the term. And Kerouac seems to have understood his calling as a divine command to go moan for man. After all, he says he saw the finger of God pointed directly at him when he got the order. And he was to do this by taking a pilgrimage on foot across the dark roads of America. So these were Jack's marching orders. Marching orders, he maintained, came from God, no less, to go moan for humanity while taking a pilgrimage across the dark roads of America. And so he did. May God bless and keep you, Jack. That's the note I end the book on. Let's sing together our closing hymn. Number 345, With Joy We Claim the Growing Light. With Before I give you the closing words, let me thank you for having me here today. I've always enjoyed it. And I very much appreciated the note that was put in your bulletin for this, or your newsletter for this week, about my being over 2 weeks from this Saturday. I'll be over at Lala Books reading another chapter from this book, with a respondent being given by a UMass Lowell professor. The information is there, and I brought a few flyers along. I'll put it on the same table where I have the books. If any of you can make it over to Lala Books, beautiful, great little independent bookstore in Lowell, 2 weeks from this Saturday, be great to see you there. Closing words by the Reverend Fred Gillis. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. May we be at peace with one another as the chalice is extinguished and we hear our postlude.